Assalamu alaikum, good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Point from our studios in London. Our guest today is Mandy Young. She is presently in Sicily, but she is based in somewhere in Africa. She will tell you herself. See, Mandy Young is a psychotherapist and ecotherapist, and she believes that genetically, soulfully, and we are evolved in adaptation to nature, and as humans we are not possibly as capable of adopting nature like the animals can. See, welcome to the show, Mandy. How are you today?
Good evening, Syed. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the show, onto Talking Point. And I think I have to start off by saying, I have such respect for you, Syed. You just, week after week, year after year, presented Talking Point to your audience and given them an opportunity to hear new information, life-changing information.
Right.
So huge accolades to you, Syed.
Well, it's just the kindness of my friends like you are who ring me up and say that would like to be on the show, and it's also that sometimes I dig them out from their hideouts and bring them to fore. What are you doing in Sicily right now?
Well, I'm a wife, a mother, and a makulu, which is a Zulu word for grandmother. So we moved from Cape Town to Sicily because in my heart I really wanted to spend more time with my young grandchildren who were living in the UK, and getting to visit them regularly from Cape Town was very challenging. So the move was initially a relationship-based move, but we love living in Sicily. We live near a long stretch of 20 kilometers of beach with a great visual of Mount Etna with her very many different moods. And as you know, Sicilian cuisine is amazing, especially their gelato.
Yes. I have a Sicilian friend, a journalist, and she works in London. She often travels back to Sicily, and she tells me the cuisine is wonderful, and it has some Arabic influence. It has some Mediterranean influence, the cuisine.
It does. Sicily is this amazing little island in between north and south, east and west. So it has many different influences in cuisine, architecture. It's definitely a little island worth exploring.
Right. You're not thinking of moving to Sicily permanent, are you?
We're thinking about our retirement plans at the moment, and I'm not sure it will be Sicily. I think it will be back in Africa.
Right. For the benefit of our viewers, please tell us in short what is an ecotherapist, a psychologist that deals with more with animals rather than men and women. And what does this kind of work bring you to different people and to different results, and what kind of people approach you for your advice and expertise?
Okay, well, my journey down this new professional path, I think, can best be explained by Howard Kleinbell. He's written a book called Healing Yourself, Healing the Earth. And my primary training was as a psychotherapist, and I spent many years taking a journey with people towards better relationships with themselves and the people that they loved. And Howard Kleinbell says psychological theories are like ripples on a pond. They're built upon the foundation of the previous one, and they expand outwards. And I guess the outer ring for me has been to include nature. And our relationship with nature as part of our emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual well-being. So my work aims at advancing both, I suppose, to use the current jargon, emotional, ecological, and spiritual intelligence. But essentially, I've came to the understanding that good mental health and environmental sustainability go hand in hand.
Right. Right. Can we play that short video, please? Thank you. There's a short video of yours that you sent me, so we would like to see that.
Greetings, my name is Mandy Young. I'm a level 6 Google Maps local guide, and I am not literally in my favorite place, but I want to tell you about it. It is Ponta d'Ora, or as the locals call it, Pot of Gold. And although it is number 7 in the top 10 dive spots in the world, I love it, not just because of the beautiful beaches and the warm sea, but here I can swim with dolphins. Do you know that swimming with dolphins have a healing power, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and swimming with them is just a beyond words description, a joie de vivre experience. You just feel uplifted. And I swim here together with the dolphins, with Angie. She's been researching and protecting these beautiful mammals for over 23 years now. And because we're with her, they trust us and allow us close. Hope to see you here soon.
Oh, welcome back. Mandy, could you just explain in detail what was it all about? I know that I could see a lot of marine life, and you were talking about dolphins and all that, and I know that you have worked with dolphins. I wish I were there to watch you and be with you. Tell us something about this video. See, this is very interesting.
Okay.
Where was it shot?
In Ponta d'Ora in Mozambique. And I work together with a lovely lady called Angie. She's been researching the dolphins in that area for probably about 23 years now. So when you go out on a dolphin boat trip together with her, dolphins have amazing intelligence and they have photographic memories. So when you go out with Angie, she's very trusted by the dolphins. And because of the trust, they accept you into their watery world. And dolphins have this incredible capability of creating this joie de vivre, you know, in your persona. You cannot come away from swimming with dolphins unchanged. They are very intimate. The fact that this wild animal that could swim anywhere in the ocean chooses to come and interact with you makes you feel very valuable, very special, and very loved. So a lot of people who've had deep psychological depression, even cognitive challenges, because dolphins have this ability with their sonar capability to read, to scan your body as if you were going under an X-ray, and they kind of buzz you, which gives you this interesting feeling.
How do humans feel that a dolphin is interacting with them? Because, you know, obviously one has to learn to understand their behavior, isn't it?
Sure, and Andy's very good at doing a code of conduct instruction before we go out on the boat to swim with the dolphins. And we know to gently get into the water because if we do a lot of splashing, it's a sign of aggression. And the dolphins are totally free to choose whether they want to interact with you or not. When they get to know you a little bit better, we enjoy, often when we first meet up, we enjoy a circle swim. So they will go around in a sort of spiral and you'll follow them around. And it's just their way of connecting with you. They can come, you know, this close to your face, just very intimate, very close, very engaging, and very playful. So it's quite hard to describe the experience. I think it's something you have to
be there
experience for yourself.
First-hand experience is the best.
Going on at the same time. Absolutely, it's amazing.
You have also lectured at Cape Town University, isn't it?
I have in many different ways. I laugh because I did a lecture in an area that I'm not at all equipped in, which was research design and statistics. And I remember one of the students wanting to engage with me afterwards, saying he wanted to paint happy faces on signboards because he liked my smile.
Well,
But
you have been acting since 1979, as I see, and that you have worked with children, adults, teenagers, students dealing with depression, addiction, abuse, and other general maladies. A person who has some sort of psychological problems like depression, can go on a safari and be closer to the nature, how does this experience help him get out of the problem?
I think there's several ways in which it helps him get out of the problem. The one is nature is a great leveler. People are accepted exactly for who you are. So you don't have to be black, white, intelligent, depressed, non-depressed.
Yeah.
You're just accepted for who you are. And this incredible acceptance makes people feel valuable. But also being with animals with different kinds of social behavior. People are able to explore who they are. And often the kind of emptiness people feel inside is because they have no clue of who they are or of their value. So it's a great place to really get to know yourself and your own value.
Right. It says that more recently you have been involved in rehabilitative counseling for those experiencing amputation of a limb. How does that work?
Well, I was part of the Cape Amputee Clinic, which operated from a hospital called Vincent Pallotti in Cape Town, and I was a life counselor. So very interestingly, the people that I worked with at the time, I formed a group of people in a similar situation, all having experience in amputation, never being able to get that limb back again, and how to adapt back into life. And one particular group of amputees, I took on a wilderness encounter. And it was an amazing wilderness encounter because we hiked through an area where there were no roads, no tents. We slept out in the open on the side of riverbanks. And we watched out for each other at night. Someone was always staying and keeping the campfire going. But the whole experience really normalized, made them feel like they were still capable of doing what physically able people can do. I mean, very few people have had that experience, walking in a wilderness area with the highest density of predators in the world. That takes a lot of courage, especially if you're partially missing one part of a limb. So it gave them a lot of confidence that life could still be enjoyed and also that they were still very capable, even though they had lost a part of their body.
Who were these unfortunate people, like they had their limbs amputated? Was it because of a war or disease or accidents?
A lot of them were because of accidents, motorbike accidents, car accidents. One young man, it was a work accident. But it was interesting. I also discovered, I'm not sure if this is relevant on this program, but I also discovered that there was a common thread, actually. It hasn't been researched or established scientifically, so it's just my thoughts. But many of the amputees had a very controlling parent or a very controlling partner, which made them want to get involved with speed in a car or a motorbike, but because other people were always making decisions for them,
Yeah.
they weren't streetwise,
Yeah.
so they weren't very good at being good at looking after themselves. So
Yeah.
again, in the bush where you have to do that, it definitely increased their ability to
Yeah.
really be aware of who they were and how to take care of
They have to
themselves.
fend for themselves. They have to think for themselves,
Absolutely.
their own
It was a real
safety.
jungle.
See. But when you're out there, what sort of food would they eat? Would they cook themselves, or there will be their people to help them?
Yes, no. We carry our own rucksacks with our own sleeping bags,
Okay.
and you have dried food, a lot of dried food that you could just add water to make
Right.
it um, palatable.
Right.
Dried fruit, nuts, maybe dry beans, that you could cook up, that kind of thing.
Okay, Mandy, we need to take a break here, and when we come back,
Okay.
we will play your other video, and we'll pick on from there. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, viewers. Don't go away. We'll be back soon after this very short break. Thank you. Welcome back. We are talking to Mandy Young, a psychotherapist, an ecotherapist. She is going to explain to you in a short video about a journey that she undertook with amputees. Can we have that video, please? Can we have the video, please?
So I'm going to tell you about Nakedly Wild. It is the most authentic wilderness experience I've ever had. I did this in 2008 with 3 amputees, 2 game guides, and myself. And it was no roads, carrying rucksacks, no tents, sleeping out in the bush, living together with the animals like we were tribal people. It was amazing. A couple of funny moments. I heard a buzzing in my rucksack and I thought some big monstrous thing was going to fly out. It was my electric toothbrush. We were walking down a dry riverbed. A buffalo ran out. We were supposed to hit the dirt, and Lebo and I, Lebo's above arm amputation, me and him dived behind the 2 guys who had above knee amputations, their prosthetics, their crutches. How courageous was that? But when the buffalo disappeared, guess who had the last laugh? Because there was Lebo and I literally covered with mud on our faces. Profound moments. We had a big bull elephant walking towards us, and Andrew said, talk to him, talk to him. And I asked him, please, we're feeling a little threatened by you walking directly towards us. Won't you just divert along the riverbank? And he flapped his ears, heard us, and was so honoring of that request and just walked away along the riverbank. It was amazing. Another profound moment was when we take care of each other at night. We stay up for 2 hours right through the night, keeping the campfire going, making sure everyone's safe. If anything was worrying for us, the game guides would get up, and just the most amazing experience. So I know you can't wait to join us to have the most life-changing experience that you could ever have in a wilderness place. We'll have our daily discussion groups, and everything you see, encounter, experience will be translated into take-home, life-changing insights. So you can go home, live your greatness, and make an impact on the earth. Look forward to you joining us. Only 8 places. That's a very exclusive experience. So you need to sign up as soon as possible.
Welcome back. We were watching a video with Mandy Young. She had taken 3 amputees on a kind of safari, and she's going to explain to us in detail what was it all about. Yes, Mandy. How did they benefit? I mean, how much did they benefit of this short safari out in the open?
I think they benefited in many ways. I think they realized their capabilities. I think they got to know themselves a lot better. And I think they also learned to understand the very valuable interconnectedness we have with nature and the importance of preserving that.
Is it is it also a case of self-discovery? What they can
It is.
do and what they can't, see? That they can stand up to unexpected things out in the open, in the wilderness.
Exactly. Because it's only between you and the animals.
Yes.
There's nobody else there. Well, obviously the guides are very experienced and they don't, they make sure we don't get into very dangerous, threatening situations. But nature is nature. You never know what's going to come up next.
How did you keep them busy throughout the day?
Oh, every day we would put on our rucksacks, pack up from the night before, and walk. And we obviously saw the big animals because they're obviously very visual, but we also saw the little signs, where had an animal been eating, where was its midden. We saw the interconnectedness between, if an animal is, why an animal would feed upwind as opposed to downwind. How the ants impacted the other parts of the ecosystem. So they experienced a whole lot of smaller things, as well as seeing big herds of elephants and buffalo, and one night even being visited by a lioness.
How do you interact with land animals? Possibly, I have a feeling that it's possibly easier to interact with animals like dolphins, see, because they are very intelligent. But what was your experience with land animals like buffaloes, like elephants? I hope you didn't meet a lion or a tiger or a panther, but you did
Well,
come across.
the interesting thing is the one night we camped on a river ledge and we saw when we first camped there, I was a bit irritated with myself because I went to enjoy the first opportunity to have a good wash in the river. And as I rejoined everybody, I moved too quickly, and a rhino and her calf, which were not too far away, they suddenly stood up and were alert. And I had to speak to them from my heart, from my thoughts, and I just said, relax, we're just here, we're peaceful, we really appreciate you, and if you really, if you feel like you can trust us, won't you move closer? So
Yeah.
they did. They moved actually right across the river from us. And Andrew, one of the amputees, said to me, now, Mandy, what are you saying to all the animals? So I said, well, I'm just telling them we're here, and if they want to come and say hello, they're welcome. So that night we were about to go to sleep and we heard these grunting sounds, and the guides got very alert and they said, did you hear that? And first of all, we hadn't, and then we listened again, and it was a lioness who was about a meter and a half above the ledge, above us. If she just leapt down, she would have pounced on us. But she'd just come to say hello. And it was at that point that Andrew said, please stop talking to the animals. So I said to them, well, I think we've got one more animal to meet. I think it's a big bull elephant. And that's where that experience began.
Isn't it very interesting that the animals in African jungles can understand English?
Well, I don't know if they understand English, but they understand vibrations.
Yeah.
You give out vibrations from your heart, from your thoughts. And sometimes when you are very intuitive, when you're very open, I mean, this was a normal thing for the Bushman families and a lot of tribal people. They communicated with the animals in this way. But
Yeah.
we've got so unfamiliar with that, so unfamiliar with our intuition. But it's actually available for everybody to communicate in this way. You just have to reach into your intuition, into your heart, and communicate from that place.
But you do
And
make
they
some noise, is it?
feel it.
But do you make some noise, some sort of noise, or just movements
No.
of hands? facial
No,
expressions?
nothing. No, just nothing. Just from your heart and your head.
Hmm.
And somehow it gets through. And I went to an animal interspecies communication workshop because all of this was happening for me in a very uneducated way, very homegrown kind of way. And I experienced an incredible interaction from a matriarch from an elephant herd where I had
Yeah.
been researching the difference in mothering behavior between um, elephant mothers who'd had good mothering experiences and elephants who'd become mothers after a major cull in the late 1980s in Kruger. And this matriarch communicated to me in such detail. And when I checked it out with the researcher and the game owners, the game ranch owners, they couldn't believe the accuracy of what I'd been saying, and I hadn't been there for 18 months. So it's possible. It really is possible.
In
I know it
like
sounds crazy. I thought to myself as well, I think I'm going cuckoo, but it was all accurate and all true.
in our society, in human society, it's generally the patriarchal family. See, man is considered to be the head of the family. Uh, what is your experience in the animal world? Is it the male dominance obvious, or is the other way?
I think in the animal world, the males and the females just have very different roles. I think it's the same in our family, even though it might be patriarchal. You know, the matriarchs in the family have a very important role.
True, true.
I could say a lot about that, but I guess so. For example, elephants and dolphins have very similar social structures. The matriarchs are very dominant in terms of connecting, holding the family together, giving wisdom about where to move, where to find food, how to look after the young, whereas the males are obviously very busy sowing their wild oats, sowing their seeds, and being very protective.
Right.
Um, they all have a very different kind of role that's just very important for their survival.
Well, you have also talked about wild men and wild dogs. See, when you say wild dogs, is it just the stray dogs that we sometimes see in some countries, or they are really dogs of a different species?
Probably it would be better to call them African painted dogs.
Uh-huh.
So they are beautifully painted dogs. I mean, they really are beautiful black, white, brown, tan colors, and they operate as a team. They're one of the most exciting animals to watch in terms of their team, their cooperation. They're actually one of the animals in the wild that care for the young and care for the sick. And they usually hunt twice a day, so they're a very exciting animal to watch and learn from. I actually did a 3-hour workshop for the alumni of the of a business school in Stellenbosch, well-known business school in Stellenbosch, and I called it Wild Men, Wild Women, and Wild Dogs. A business model for the 21st century of interdependence and integrity.
Right. Uh, you have also worked in Zimbabwe, haven't you?
Yes, I've lived and worked in
Worked
Zimbabwe.
and lived. Uh, I see that you have studied African wild dogs at wildlife reserves in South Africa and Zimbabwe. The African wild dogs, do they perform any particular, are they used for particular work, or they are just to be kept at bay?
Oh no, they're not aggressive towards humans unless you're sitting on the ground and they're opportunistic predators if anything's weak or viable prey. I think they're very cooperative breeders, so the whole pack will look after the young, but they have an alpha male and an alpha female. And what really impressed me once when I was watching captive wild dogs, and I was actually in a den with a single way mirror watching a wild female, an alpha female, give birth to pups. I was really amazed at the male-female roles that were so similar for our society. The male was very attentive. He helped get the pups out. He was licking her face, calming her down, whereas she was very busy with actually delivering of the pups. So you see here a female who's well equipped to give birth, to nurture the pups, but she's so much more equipped if she's supported by the male in attendance. So there were some lovely parallels, actually.
Right. Thank you, Mandy. We need to take another break, and we'll come back to continue with the discussion of the wild dogs and the wild men and the Maasais and others. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Don't go away, viewers. We will be back after this very short break. Thank you. Welcome back. Our guest today is Mandy Young, a psychotherapist and ecotherapist. She has worked in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and in many other African countries and out in the wilderness of the African continent. She was talking about animals, wild dogs and elephants and other animals, but I'm intrigued by a particular animal called meerkats. You must have seen such characters on our commercial televisions where they are featured in advertisements, commercials. Yes, Mandy, tell us something about meerkats and your experience with them. They appear so intelligent creatures. Are they really, or they are made to appear like that on our television?
I think any animal who's able to really adapt to their environment and survive is very intelligent. And I spent time with wild meerkats in a situation where they'd never been provisioned, but I could walk really close to them as if I was just a buck or a walking tree or something like that. And that was through the really excellent work by Grant McIlrath, the meerkat man in Oudtshoorn, just outside of in South Africa. And meerkats are very similar to wild dogs, and they also cooperative breeders. They also have an alpha male and an alpha female, and they're amazing to watch for teamwork. They're fierce little animals when it comes to teamwork and defending their territory. But one of the lovely life lessons I think we can take from the meerkats is that there's usually one meerkat up on guard watching out for the rest of the clan while they forage and look for juicy larvae or scorpions. And you might ask, why is it that meerkat? It looks like that meerkat's going without food right now. Is it that meerkat's role? Is it just his duty for the day? And science has shown that the meerkat up on guard is usually just eaten the best. It's just eaten a great big scorpion or juicy larva, and it's up there digesting its food, watching out for bat-eared foxes, eagles, any predators that might attack his clan. And the good life lesson from that is that when we know how to take good care of ourselves, we're in a much better position to care for those that we're responsible for or we really like or love.
Are they really friendly?
They are friendly if you try to have them as a pet, but only to a certain extent, because if you get a young meerkat pup and you provision it, it'll think that you are its parent. So it'll follow you, nagging at you all the time. It'll drive you crazy. And then because they're used to burrowing, they will burrow through your walls, your furniture. So they are not good pets, and it's very sad when they're taken out of the wilderness and made to be pets. And when people try to reintroduce them into the wilderness, they have a different smell to the rest of the meerkats in that wilderness place. So they normally do not survive.
Do they walk on 2 feet, or like other animals on their four feet?
They normally move around on 4 feet, but when they get up in the morning, they love to stand on their 2 feet
Yeah.
with their tail at the third pivot and face their bellies to the sun to get the energy for the day, like their caffeine fix.
And are they local to one particular country, or are they all over Africa? Meerkats?
I only know them to exist in Africa. You do get other species like mongooses. They might be in different countries. I think you might find, I'm not sure. I can't really answer that with
Right. Okay.
great
Okay. No problem.
intelligence.
Let's move on to from meerkats to something more interesting about the Maasais. You see, the Maasais, they look very fascinating people. You have had experience with them, working with them, taking groups to them. What is your experience? Tell us, where are they located? A lot of people would not know, so where are they located, and what is their lifestyle? What do they do?
Most of the Maasai people live in Kenya or Tanzania, and they're an amazing tribe in that they one of the tribes that still live interdependently with nature. Even if they're starving, they will not kill wild animals, and you'll see them herding their cattle, their goats, in and amongst elephants. You know, they live in a very interdependent way with nature. So as you can see from my bracelets,
Right.
I am very closely linked to a Maasai tribe just outside of Amboseli National Park. It's a place where there's the most long-standing elephant research in the world, initiated by Cynthia Moss. And what I love to do when I take people to connect with my Maasai tribe is to learn their cultural ways. They know a lot about the wildlife. They know a lot about the nature, but also, again, just like the wild dogs and the meerkats, they're incredible at being team. They're incredible at looking out for each other. You know, as we've traveled together over the last 4 years, they've faced drought, they've faced COVID. They have very little, very few possessions. They have a few pots and pans, and they have the clothes that they wear. So if there's something severe like a drought that
Right.
attacks,
Are they endangered? The Maasai tribe.
good question. I can't really answer that with true honesty, but I would imagine they're pretty vulnerable. You know, they're pretty vulnerable to things like COVID, to drought. They do not have a lot of resources to survive in those kind of situations.
What
A
do
lot
they?
of them are moving into westernized societies to try and survive. A lot of them are very educated, accountants, ecologists, political people. So they have moved out of their tribal areas. But
Right.
my passion is to take people to learn from them so that they don't have to do that. They don't have to move out of their normal cultural way of living.
What do they do for a living?
They herd their cattle. They protect their cattle at night. They are quite entrepreneurial. They do a lot of beautiful beadwork, as you could see from my bracelets.
Yeah. Yep.
And they connect with the tourists. You know, they take photographs with the tourists. They teach the tourists their songs and their dances. Those are the main
Do they live
activities.
on some sort of reservation for them, or they just live in their own
No,
villages?
they live in they live in circular communities. So their houses are made out of a kind of mud clay mixture, and it's made in a circular format with little gaps in between, and their animals, their cattle and their goats, are kept in the center. And at night, it is the warriors who will look out to protect the animals. So from lions, hyenas, um,
Right.
yeah. So when a Maasai person says to you, "How was your night?" You know, for us in our westernized society, we think, well, that's a bit rude. But for them, it's like if you wake up in the morning and you've survived, I mean, that's an achievement because each night, you know, is kind of life-threatening to a certain extent.
In most of the films and pictures that I've seen, see, they appear to be very tall. Is that true?
They are quite tall. They're
Uh,
quite tall and quite slender.
right. Do they intermarry with other tribes in Africa?
I can't answer that question. I just know from my Maasai village, there's not a lot of intermarrying.
No. So if they don't, then they would be endangered because a
Possibly.
small community cannot survive like that.
Sure, sure.
Uh,
I don't think they're prohibited from marrying other cultures or into other tribes, but I think they're just used to growing up together and being, you know, in their own community. I guess, you know, there are a lot of different communities all over what they call a home ranch.
now
So,
I hear dogs barking in the background. They're not the wild dogs of Africa.
no, unfortunately,
They're the Sicilian dogs.
they're the Sicilian dogs.
Mandy, somewhere you wrote that we are not best adapted to the stress and the strains of the city life and many aspects of our westernized lifestyle. That is, of course, you are comparing life out in the open and comparing the wildlife and the people living like people like Maasai people and people in villages who can relate to the environment, but our closest touch with the environment is our back garden, and that's it. See,
Sure.
we get our things from the supermarket, cook them and eat them. See, and our
Sure.
interaction is with our own people. See, people of our own kind. See. So, how do you explain that? That we are not best adapted to stresses and strains of city life and many aspects of our westernized lifestyle. How do we
Hello.
overcome this lifestyle and our own stresses and strains? I mean, I know that the best thing will be to go to you, Mandy Young. I need some advice.
I think we evolved in adaptation to nature, and we spiritually, genetically, emotionally, and as you just said, we're not best adapted to the stresses and strains of city life. I think as we have become eco-alienated, so it's not just being away from a wilderness place, it's away from recognizing
Right.
our interdependence with nature. So even though you could be in a city place, you have a garden, you have a plant, you have things that you have recycling,
Yeah.
you have things that remind us of
Yes.
that interdependence. And I think that's the most important thing to remember that. We all see the stars, we hear the birds,
Yes.
we see the bees. You know, we're not totally isolated from nature.
True.
Obviously, when you get back into a wilderness place where all your sights, sounds, intuition, smells are stimulated, it's much easier to get back into your roots and to remember that. But you can still do that in a city place. You know, there are parks, there are forests, there's the
Yep.
sea. So there's always the opportunity to get back into nature in one way or another. I just think that when you get back into a wilderness place, what you experience is that nature's been tried and tested over time. It's a harmonious system, and you're accepted there for who you are. So you get into much more of a right brain space, much more of an emotional intelligence
Right.
space. And I think in a westernized city, we don't get the chance to engage with that aspect of ourselves.
Well,
Are more
before I
emotional,
forget, I would like to ask
creative.
you, with this COVID-19, which has impacted our lives in cities, do you think that COVID-19, in any which way, has it impacted the life out in the open, in the wilderness, and has it impacted the either flora or fauna, the wildlife?
Well, I think it's been said that if anything was removed from the ecosystem, that would make the whole ecosystem better, it would be humans. So I know this is a bit controversial, but I've always thought, we should put fences around cities and let the animals run free because they're much better at being ecosystemic. So I think with people in lockdown
Yeah,
and less people on the roads and in the air and less traffic, and I think the wildlife's actually enjoyed that.
yep, yep.
They've
See,
actually
it
had a
happened.
bit
It
of peace
happened in London
themselves.
that during the lockdown, uh, wild fox they were out on the streets while we were indoors, looking at them
Exactly,
that they are enjoying the the life.
exactly, exactly. But I think COVID has also given us an opportunity to reflect and to think about what is important in our lives and how our lives work because suddenly death can be more real. You never know when you're going to get COVID, and that could result in, I mean, obviously, many people get COVID and survive.
True.
So I'm not kind of laying a death penalty out there. But we've got to think a little bit more about what does it mean to survive? What do we really want out of life? And I guess, I'd encourage people to come on a wilderness encounter to do that kind of reflecting, to kind of think out of the box and give
Right.
yourself space and time to think about those kind of things.
Right. Since COVID-19 has not impacted wildlife, it has only impacted the human life, as far as we know. And with that, I will thank you very much for giving us time, and we hope that our viewers have enjoyed the show as much as we have, and we have taken the effort and all the logistics to rope you in from Sicily. And one day perhaps again you will be in London and we could have you right here on the sets. In the meantime, take care. Thank you very much for your time. Bye for now.
Opportunity, and you take care.
You take care too. Thank you viewers for being with us. Same time, same channel, next week, next Friday, with another distinguished guest. We'll meet again. In the meantime, take care. Wash your hands, keep distance, and take care.